it's 8 o'clock now.
I know. So we'll start. Whoop.
Sorry.
Whoever's online.
प्रभु जी वो आसन नहीं आसन थोड़ा नहीं आसन बैठने वाला थोड़ा नीचे डालें थोड़ा हिल रहा है यहाँ पे डाल दीजिए वो थोड़ा जगह बराबर नहीं ना जगह ऊपर नीचे कर लो
Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
भागवतम को बड़ा विजय बोल रहे
Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janaballabha Girivardhari Gopi Janaballabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Vrajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Tamunatira Vana Chari Tamunatira Vana Chari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janaballabha Girivardhari Gopi Janaballabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Vrajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajanaranjana Munatira Vana Chari Yamunatira Vana Chari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janaballabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahansa Parivachikacharya Ashtatera Sata Shishimat Chidandi Goswami Shri Si Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahansa Parivachikacharya Ashtatera Sata Shishimat Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrind Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Jamuna Mai Ki Jai, Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai, Bhakti Dev Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrindi Ki Jai, Srimad Bhagavatam Grantaraj Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, the 7th canto, chapter 9, text 33. Tasyaiva teva puridam. Let me try to get the meter here. Tasyaiva teva puridam nijakala shaktya. Tasyaiva teva puridam nijakala shaktya. Sanchodhita prakriti dharmana atmagudam. Sanchodhita prakriti dharmana atmagudam. Ambasyananta shayanat viramat samadhir. Basyanta shayanat viramat samadhir. Nabirabhut swakanika vatavan mahabjam. Nabherabhut Svakanika Vatavan Mahabjam Tasyaiva Teva Puridam Nijakala Shaktya Sanchodita Prakriti Dharmana Atma Gudham Ambasyananta Shayanad Viramat Samadhir Nabherabhut Svakanika Vataram Mahabjam. Others like to try it. Tasyaiva teva puridam nijakala shaktya Sanchodita prakriti dharmana atma gudam Ambasyananta shayanad viramat samadhir Nabherabhut svakanika vatavam mahabjam. Tasyaiva teva puridam nijakala shaktya Sanchodita prakriti dharmana atma gudam Ambasyananta shayanad viramat samadhir Nabherabhut svakanika vatavan mahabjam. Ladies, to try? Anyone? You can do it. Tasyaiva teva puridam nijakala shaktya Sanchodita prakriti dharmana atma gudam Ambasyananta shayanad viramat samadhir Nabherabhut svakanika vatatam mahabjam. Okay. Tasya, of that Supreme Personality of Godhead. Eva, certainly. Te, of you. Babu, the cosmic body. Idam, this universe. Nijakala Shaktya, by the potent time factor. Sanchodita, agitated. Prakriti Dharmanaha, of him by whom the three gunas, or qualities of material nature, Atmagudham, dormant in yourself, Ambasi, in the water known as the causal ocean, Ananta Shayanat, from the bed known as Ananta, another feature of yourself, Viramat Samadhi, having awakened from the Samadhi, yogic trance, Navahi, from the navel, Abhut, appeared, Svakanika, from the seed, Vatavat, like the great banyan tree, Mahabjam, the great lotus of the worlds, has similarly grown. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. By the way, just to remind ourselves, this is Prahlad Maharaj speaking to Lord Nrsimhadeva. This cosmic manifestation, the material world, is also your body. This total lump of matter is agitated by your potent energy known as Kala Shakti, and thus the three modes of material nature are manifested. You awaken from the bed of Shesha, Ananta, and from your navel a small transcendental seed is generated. It is from this seed that the lotus flower of the gigantic universe is manifested, exactly as a banyan tree grows from a small seed. Purport. The three different forms of Mahavishnu, namely Karanadakshayi Vishnu, Garbhodakshayi Vishnu, and Chirodakshayi Vishnu. These three names refer to the different sitting places of Vishnu. Karana, the Karana ocean, Karanadakshayi, Garbhodakshayi, entering in to the ocean, to the universe, and Chirodakshayi. Actually, Garbhodakshayi would be in the heart, and Chirodakshayi in the milk ocean, who are the origin of creation and maintenance, are gradually being described. From Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshayi Vishnu is generated, and from Garbhodakshayi Vishnu, Chirodakshayi Vishnu gradually expands. Thus, Mahavishnu is the original cause of Garbhodakshayi Vishnu, and from Garbhodakshayi Vishnu comes the lotus flower from which Lord Brahma is manifested. Thus, the original cause of everything is Vishnu, and consequently, the cosmic manifestation is not different from Vishnu. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 10:8, wherein Krishna says, Aham sarvasya prabhavo matak sarvam pravartate. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. Garbhodakshayi Vishnu is an expansion of Karanadakshayi Vishnu, who is an expansion of Sankarshan. In this way, Krishna is ultimately the cause of all causes. Sarva Karana Karanam. The conclusion is that both the material world and spiritual world are considered to be the body of the Supreme Lord. We can understand that the material body is caused by the spiritual body and is therefore an expansion of the spiritual body. Thus, when one takes up spiritual activities, one's entire material body is spiritualized. Similarly, in this material world, when the Krishna consciousness movement expands, the entire material world becomes spiritualized. As long as we do not realize this, we live in the material world. But when we are fully Krishna conscious, we live not in the material world, but in the spiritual world. Om Agyanatamarandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshumilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Mukam Karoti Vachalam Bhagadaya. Hare Krishna. Please allow me to speak here with your permission, with your blessings. Perhaps I can say something to expand. We've been hearing about expansions. So let's see if we can expand on the topics of this verse and purport, which are very, very, as is the case with most, well, all of Srila Prabhupada's purports, very stimulating the heart, stimulating the mind, stimulating our intelligence. My first thought in regards how to expand on this was the last statement of living in the spiritual world. So we'll talk about that. But then I also was thinking that we're hearing here about our lives, ourselves. We're hearing about Mahavishnu, with whom we've had a relationship for a very long time, one may say eternally, one may say since time immemorial, anadi. The verse refers to Kala Shakti. We hear of Kala also as, and I think, is it in this verse? No. But the term, maybe in the previous verse also. Yeah. But we hear of Kala Chakra, right? Kala Chakra, a wheel. Now what does a wheel do? It rotates, it turns. What's here comes here, and then what's here comes back here. And it keeps going and going and going and going. And the wheel of time just keeps moving. And we're on that wheel. And we just keep moving. We move from one body to another body, 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 to another, on and on, with no end. It just keeps going. And when it's time for the universe, like everything, gets wound up in the course of time, what does Krishna say? Time I am. And what does time do? The destroyer. Time destroys, time depletes, time degrades, time, everything within time dissipates, dissolves, disappears. And so it is with this world. In time, it will all be wound up and enter into Mahavishnu. Where do we go? We've been in this world. We're going from one body to another body. Brahmanda Brahmiti Kona Bhagavanji. We're wandering in this world, up and down, backwards and forwards. He's just wandering, trying to be happy. And when the time comes then we also go with this world. We don't stop existing, but we enter into, what's the term? Shushupti. The Vedas describe four states of consciousness. The first state of consciousness is Jagrata, awake. Then comes Swapna, the dreaming state, where our consciousness withdraws from the active world that we're in into an imaginary world, a mental world, a dream world. We're still conscious, we're aware, but what we're aware of is Swapna. But then comes, and we all experience this, although we don't remember it because it's not to be remembered. It's called Shushupti, the state of unconsciousness. In material world, it would be we call it, that is Shushupti, is unconsciousness. If you go into anesthesia, Prabhupada describes that where he just talks about Shushupti. He talks that it is similar, or it is the same thing as when you're under the influence of anesthesia. Unconscious. You still exist. You're actually conscious. But what you're conscious of is nothing. You're not conscious of anything. So it's a state of consciousness. It's not, the term unconsciousness is not exact, because you actually are conscious, but you're not conscious of anything. Shushupti. So we heard in the last verse about Krishna's, Mahavishnu's Shushupti being different from our Shushupti. But we enter into Mahavishnu again. And we enter into this state of Shushupti. And we remain there until again Mahavishnu breathes out. He simply breathes in and then he breathes out. And all the universes come again. And we enter into these universes and we begin it all over again. Without end. Nitya Baddha. That's our state. We're eternally cycling in this birth and death, various states of existence. Until Brahmanda Brahmete, we're wandering in these Brahmanda, the universes. Brahmanda Brahmete, Kona Bhagyavan Jeev, until we get the fortune, Bhagyavan. For what? Guru Krishna Prasad. To get the mercy, the prasad of Guru and Krishna. We hear in this verse about how Krishna expands himself for our sake. Once someone asked Srila Prabhupada, why? What is this? Why is this material world here? And Prabhupada's response was, it is for you. Krishna has made all of this for us. We want a material world. What is a material world? This brings us to the conclusion of this purport, where Srila Prabhupada is describing how we can be living in the spiritual world now. He's telling us that actually everything, it's all coming from Krishna. It's Krishna's world. This is Krishna's world just as much as Goloka. It's all his world. There are different characteristics. In this world, his time energy acts in a destructive way. In his spiritual world, time acts simply to create pleasure for the Lord. We were discussing the other day about the nature of time in our world and the nature of time in the spiritual world. The question was, because sometimes we hear, there's no time in this spiritual world. But then we hear, well, no, there's no past, present, and future in the spiritual world. But we still hear about activity in the spiritual world, and whenever there's activity, then there's a progression of something happening, then another thing happening, and another. So time moves things. Without time, without the dimension of time, we were talking about it in that class, that time is the fourth dimension of perceptible, of what we perceive. Everything we perceive can be described first in three dimensions. Okay, it's height, it's width, and so on. But then we have to add the time dimension to describe it. And of course, now, perhaps there's some physicists in our audience. Anyone here, student of physics? Einstein's theory of relativity, and you can take over and explain quantum mechanics to us? Einstein particularly came up, I don't know, I can't say that he was the one who originated the term space-time. Does anyone? No, but anyway, I don't know, I'll have to figure that out. But you've heard the term space-time, right? Because he and others of his generation, they described that our universe is really a web or of space, things that can be positioned, and time. And he proposes that space-time fabric, the fabric of space-time, is bendable. It is influenced by various gravity and other factors. So anyway, I don't have the qualification to speak on that anymore. But that same principle of time as a dimension of reality is there also in the spiritual world, but it acts differently. Here, time simply moves us through what's called entropy, states of entropy, where everything is just dissolving and falling apart. But in the spiritual world, time makes for the Leela. And Krishna can move it whichever direction he wants. Backwards, forwards. He can forget that and turn the clock around, and so that he's never met Radha. And he's just thinking, who's that beautiful girl? And he has what's called Purva Rag. You've heard that term? He has the wonderful raga of Purva Rag, the attraction that's there before never meeting. How can he have it if he can't turn the clock around and then meet and not meet? But it's all under his control. Here we are bound by time. We are controlled by time. Time is our master. Sometimes we try to get control of our time, right? I'm going to be the master of my time, and then something happens and forget it. Schedule's out the window. My to-do list is all messed up. Because we can never capture a single moment that is lost. We can't turn the clock back. We have no control over time. But not Krishna. He has full control over everything, including time. So time is used by him in his spiritual kingdom. What is the difference? What is it? Why is this material? What does it mean to be in the material world? We are spiritual beings living in the material world. Now, most of you, I think, are too young to have experienced that production of George Harrison. But when he launched his independent musical life, I don't know if it was, I think it was his first album, independent. I'm not sure about that, but it was called Living in the Material World. And in that we find the beautiful, beautiful rendition of My Sweet Lord. So he understood something from Srila Prabhupada, that we're all living in a material world. But how are we living in the material world? What is it? We are not material. We actually have no connection. We don't arise, we don't come into being by the interaction of material elements. We're totally independent of these. It's said that we reside in the area of the heart in this body, but that's a way of seeing, of placing ourselves in some way. But when we sleep, when we dream, we can move about. We're independent. There are those yogis who can leave their bodies sitting someplace and just travel and observe. And there are those, who was it just recently, one devotee was talking about how they'd had an out-of-body experience. Who was it? It was I think it was Indradyumna Maharaj? I'm not sure. Anyway, Satchidananda Maharaj, yes, Satchidananda Maharaj. He was talking about it. Very funny story, but I won't, because he was relating how, he was under some operation. Anyway, he found himself out of his body, and he wanted to check up on his servant, who was supposed to be waiting and praying for him in the other room. So he kind of went over and looked and said, "Oh, okay, yeah, he is. Okay, good for him." So, but then he thought, well, wait a minute, what am I doing? I should be thinking of Krishna. This could be it. I don't know if I'm going to come back to this body or not. Anyway, he did come back. But he had that experience, and there are many who've had the experience of being separate from the body. So we are not our bodies. We're not dependent on our bodies. So what does it mean that we're living in the material world? It means that we're in material consciousness. Our consciousness is material. And what is the root of material consciousness? Anyone like to suggest? What's the root of consciousness being material? Enjoying mentality. And what, but wait a minute. We all have we all must have an enjoying mentality. We want to enjoy. It's to live is to enjoy. Enjoy separate. So what does that mean? What's the word that Prabhupada uses to envy? Envy. I want to read something on this topic. Hopefully my internet works. Okay. So Srila Prabhupada this is in a talk well, it's in the teachings of Queen Kunti. Okay? Prabhupada says, if we are jealous or envious of our friends or other associates, we are in the material world. And if we are not jealous, we are in the spiritual world. There need be no doubt of whether we are spiritually advanced or not. We can test ourselves. Bhakti parishan bhavo viraktir anyatra cha. When we eat, we can understand for ourselves whether our hunger is satisfied. We don't have to take a certificate from others. Similarly, we can test for ourselves whether we are in the material world or the spiritual world by testing how envious are we. So the envy starts because we're envious of Krishna. Krishna is the enjoyer. We are the enjoyed. I don't have a reference, but I remember reading His Divine Grace Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Swami Maharaj recollecting his own progress in spiritual life. And speaking about what we would call, what's it called? Epiphany. You've heard that term, epiphany? Epiphany is a sudden sort of revelation of truth that comes to you. And it I think it also refers to, in Christian tradition, of the appearance of Jesus after his crucifixion, and he comes back. So having that epiphany. But Sridhar Maharaj describes, and I don't remember all the context, but he describes that he had an epiphany where he grasped that he was not the subject of enjoyment, but the object of enjoyment. Material world, to be in the material world means I am the subject. I will enjoy. To be in the spiritual world is to say, Krishna will enjoy. Krishna will enjoy. That is to be in the spiritual world. Those advanced devotees who become free of every level of this envious mentality. Recently, we were listening to Bhaktivedanta Maharaj expounding on what he described as the 4 levels of envy. And I'm not, he was relating this to the teachings of Kapila, but I haven't found the full reference. But let's see if I can find it now. Anyway, I'll try to one. It started with avada. There's avada, dvesha, and there was one more, and then ninda. And I don't remember the one in between, what was Sanskrit word. But basically, avada means that, well, inside, in my mind, I look around and I think, yeah, okay, I'm better than someone. So just that little feeling of superiority, of being better than others. This is the beginning. I'm better. Well, not only am I better, but they're not good. So it turns into not only am I better, but they're not only not as good, they're not good. I don't want. The dvesha. The dvesha comes in. I want to avoid such people. And then it progresses, and well, why should they even have anything? And then the thought of, starts to come in of wanting something unfortunate to happen to them. And then it comes out, ninda, where actual hatred develops. And this applies not just to devotees. Any living being for whom we harbor such feelings will stand as Maharaj's talk was about how this stands as a cloud. It stands, if we want to know, why am I not advancing quickly in Krishna consciousness? Why do I not chant so nicely? Then just look at this. Mahaprabhu gave the formula. He said, we can take it both ways. He said, Trinadapi sunitena turorapi sahishnuna amanina manadena kirtaniya sadahari. So he told us how we can be fully in kirtan, always in Krishna consciousness, always. Sada, always. We can be always in Krishna consciousness when we have this kind of mentality. So we can think, if I'm not always in Krishna consciousness, it's because I don't have that kind of mentality. Somewhere I'm not manadena. Somewhere I'm not amanina. Somewhere I'm not sahishnuna or sunichena. That I was thinking about recently I've been, particularly, I should say, I was not feeling so well at some time back, and now it's a bit cold. And because sometimes we think about tolerance, be more tolerant than the tree, and we think, well, I've got to tolerate other devotees, what they do and so on. But we also have to tolerate the cold. We have to tolerate the discomforts. We have to tolerate this whole material world. We have to tolerate. To tolerate it. And when we tolerate it in the way that the tree tolerates, the tree stands still, tolerated. So when we can get into that consciousness of being so still within the tumult of this world, within all the various miseries of our bodies, but we're still, we're tolerant. We tolerate, and in such a state, we can simply kirtan. We can simply be involved. And when we are invoked in kirtan, then what does Srila Prabhupada say? This material world becomes spiritual world. We can come to this platform. And when we do, then even the hankering, and this is demonstrated by Mahaprabhu's next verse. Nadanam, najanam, na sundarim, kavitam va, jagadisha, kamaye mama, janmani, janmani, ahaituki, ishvare ahaituki bhakti. That we don't want anything, and neither do we even want freedom from this world, because the world has become transformed for us. It's now just Krishna. It's only Krishna. And we are engaged in his service, using his world to please him. So whether we use this world to please him, or we live in his spiritual energy to please him, the same consciousness is there. How to please Krishna. This is how our world can become a spiritual world. Hare Krishna. I'm so far from that. I may have spoken here with enthusiasm but that's because I'm an actor. That's all. I like to act. I like to put on shows. I like to move my hands. So if you saw something that looked like I was somehow knew what I was talking about, just know it was a show. And if you enjoyed it, then that's okay. This is, and I can be assured of this because not only can I say that, but even Raghunath Das, I think it is, in his, is it Raghunath? We heard it in the Govardhan Holy Name Retreat, where, if somebody might correct me, but it's either Raghunath or I can't remember. But he says that here I am setting up a shop for jewels, but I don't know anything about jewels. But if somehow I can entertain, say that, but I'm not ashamed, because if I can somehow entertain, then it's all right. So if you found something, stimulating, it is Prabhupada. It is Srila Prabhupada's words that somehow I've collected, little here and there, and by his grace, tried to share with you. I'll close with just one more quote from Srila Prabhupada. As a chariot of air carries an aroma from its source and immediately catches the sense of smell, similarly, one who constantly engages in devotional service, in Krishna consciousness, can catch the Supreme Soul who is equally present everywhere. Hare Krishna. So if are there any other reflections or comments or questions? And yes, Prabhu.
Thank you very much, Pancharatna Prabhu, for your touching on the subject of envy. So my question is that whether it's in the outside world or among devotees, we among devotees also see a lot of cases of depression. So my question is this depression, the root cause of that also is because we try to compare ourselves with others, what we can achieve, and that is one part, depression. And the other thing is, among devotees, people say that to overcome this, you need to meet a psychologist. So in this, because you have spent so many years in ISKCON, I don't know whether those days, whether you had to meet a psychologist, but nowadays this is becoming very common. No, your chanting will not be effective. You need to meet a psychologist. You need help. So how do you address this? Because we are now more than how many years ISKCON has grown?
I have observed that there is something that is known in the medical world as clinical depression that is brought about by physical imbalances or whatever it is, something that's not, it's not fully understood, the causes of clinical depression, which can be treated medically. And I think it would be a mistake for any of us to advise a devotee or anyone suffering from that kind of depression. And it's different from the, I'm so depressed, I can't, Now this is when you can't get out of bed, you can't move, you're just not just mentally, but physically depressed. So that, I would say, is something just like any other disease. You have a fever, or you have, should be examined at least by a professional. So that's the first response. But then there's the, what we might call the run-of-the-mill depression, which we all suffer from time to time, where we just feel down and we just feels bad. And usually this comes and goes, but when it's there, then you really feel bad. It's not a it's not something that somebody comes up to you and says, "Hey, you just chant Hare Krishna and you'll be fine." Yeah. I don't know. I am chanting. The first thing in such cases is what we need is empathy. We need empathy. We need to meet such a person with empathy, saying, "Yeah, it's bad. Tell me about it." Often, that's all that's really most needed is for someone who's depressed is to hear. But some of us are not so good at hearing. And there are people who are trained professionally to hear and to be able to listen and hear people. That's what we call therapy. So for some people who are, who they may need a professional therapist, so hopefully a devotee who's not going to, that's why we need trained devotee therapists who can help people, because not all, most of us, I have to say, because of our envy, because we think I'm not depressed. Why should you be depressed? I'm not. Just do what I'm doing. I mean, that's kind of our reaction. Hey, it's no big deal. It's hard. Being empathetic is not so easy, because it means that you're coming down. You're not, to be empathetic means that you're not standing up here looking down and saying, yeah, I know, yeah, okay, yeah, okay, but, come on up, No. Empathetic means to go down and be down there where they are. So, yeah, this is bad. I feel it. Tell me about it. That's not easy. Because you have to give up a bit of your own, you were saying, the envious. Okay, so maybe, yes, the root of our depression in this material world is our envy of Krishna, because we're not succeeding, and so we get depressed. But be that as it may, come on, that's not what we're talking about now. Who's pure? Who's beyond that? Yes, of course there are those great pure souls. But for most of us, we've all, if we've not gone through it, we will go through it. Or we have gone through it, and somehow by the grace of Krishna, we're come through it, but we should remember, this is hard. The material world is a tough place. It's designed like that by Krishna to force us. It doesn't have to be. The material world does not have to be a tough place. Even for a materialist, it doesn't have to be a tough place if you follow all the rules. You do everything right. You do the jagyas, you do the sacrifices, you follow the principle, you do everything right. You can live happily. Krishna said, you want to live, enjoy, have a material, your life without, you can never do it without me. You have to worship me at least. At least you have to make sacrifices. But you get heavenly planets, you drink the Soma Ras, you'll do everything. But once, we all mess up and we can't do that. And so we suffer in this material world, and eventually we get depressed. And hopefully out of that depression, that suffering, we'll begin to look for Krishna. So we've been there. So we have to be empathetic. And yes, I do think that there's a need for some devotees for therapy, for people that are trained how to listen and how to help people get through their depressive states. And for some people, it's actually a chemical situation, and they may need some medication. I'm not so well, acquainted with depression, but I do know a number of devotees, or at least children of devotees, who suffer from real mental illnesses that really need medication, or else maybe living in the Himalayas with Nagababas. That's also possible. I've seen that. Someone who is schizophrenic, but either is on medication and things work okay, or has to go to the Himalayas and live with the Babas. And then in that tamasic environment, they're able to, I don't know, I shouldn't call it tamasic, whatever it is. I can't say what it is. I can't say what it is. That's another world to me. I have no, but it's a world that is crazy enough, I guess, or suitable enough that people who have, Prabhupada does say that entities cause these things, So those who have, and we've heard that these Babas, they know how to work with these entities, so they cooperate, and things are okay. And that's another form of professional help. Those who are, I'm not kidding. There are devotees who know how to work with these entities, ghosts and Brahma Rakshasas and other entities that are very envious. Okay, does that answer your question? Hare Krishna. I don't know about time here. It's not 9:05, so maybe we have time for one or two more questions.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, you were telling about this envy. Prabhuji, we also hear about how our practice of pure devotional service, it gets covered by this bhukti, mukti, and siddhi kamanas. So how do we understand how can we actually overcome these three things by proper knowledge? If you could kindly explain that, especially if for mukti kamana tendencies, because
Mukti kama. To me, my response has always been, what's so good about mukti? I want to be with Krishna. And when I hear that I can be with Krishna, to me, when I hear about the pure devotees, when I hear about Srila Prabhupada, and I hear and I see his state of love. There's a song that I really like. I don't know how many of you have heard. It's by my godbrother Mangalananda. Have you heard? When I see his love, I know I've got a long, long way to go to feel the love that he is feeling. But we can see that love. And when we see that love, then we say, that's better. That's much better than. And of course, then when we think of mukti, we're thinking of going back home, back to Godhead, being in the spiritual world, or being free of this material, being free of this material world. But then we start to hear about this. We can be there. We can get there. First of all, we have to recall that to get there means to be there now. I mean, it's basically the same. So the desire to be there transforms into a desire to be here while there. So that's what we want. We want to be here and there simultaneously. That's the freedom that we want. We want to be so free that here or there, we're filled with love for Krishna. That's what we want. Because we know that when we have that, we have everything. Then the desire to be there, or it goes. It's not there anymore because we're there. Here or there, we're there. Right? That's what we want. Does that answer your question?
yes, Prabhuji, very nicely. And one more follow-up question for this, Prabhuji. This tendency for liberation, we all when we get some services to do, or at that time we feel somehow just finish the service, khatam, that sort of done and dusted type of mentality we have. So how can we get over this also?
To become greedy for service. Oh yes, that's what we need. We want to become greedy for service. We got to get a taste. We get a taste by tasting. That's it. Service, like chanting, is Rupa Goswami describes it just like sugar candy to the jaundiced person, right? When we're jaundiced, then the sugar candy tastes bitter. But it's that same sugar candy which will cure us of the jaundice and become sweeter and sweeter. So we just have to go on. It will call, yes, get it over with. That it's, you know, especially our rounds, right? So many times it's like, okay, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Oh yeah, I got 12 rounds done. Okay, well, I'll just do it. Then I can go and have prasadam. By the way, yeah, but no, but we go on chanting, we go on serving, and then gradually we get a taste, and then we want more. So that's the only solution. Okay, thank you very much. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.